All right, good evening. It's 7 o'clock, November 20th, 2023. This is the time and place for the Tioga Commission. Call the order, and please, yeah.
One nation, indivisible, liberty and justice.
Great. First off will be the minutes for November 6th commission meeting and November 6th, 2023 executive session.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
All right, with the motion and second, no questions, comments, concerns?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so moved. All right, commissioner reports. I feel like we just did those. Do you have anything you want to?
No, I have nothing.
Yeah, my mistake.
I don't have any.
All right, modifications to the agenda or approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay. All right, with the motion and a second to the agenda, no questions, comments, concerns from the board.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, go with old business. First legal report, Liz.
Okay, can you all hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Obviously I'm appearing both via telephone and Zoom this evening, and so if at any point any of you can't hear me, just throw up a hand or signal to me. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. It looks like we actually have sort of a agenda this evening, which is a nice change from lately. I will note that I have finished a review of the contract that Josh sent me for policing. If Chief Nelson is there this evening, I will follow up with him with just a couple of questions, but it generally looked in good shape. So commission members, I'll probably ask one of you at some point in the meeting, later in the meeting, simply to allow for the passage of that contract subject to final review from Josh and I. Just by way of background, so the community knows about that. Obviously, Tioga does not have a jailing facility of its own. So we contract with the county to facilitate any jailing that comes to pass within the city. And of course, Chief Nelson is apprised of that, and we enter into contracts when the old ones expire for that purpose. We'll make sure to submit that in final form to the commission, and if any commissioner has any questions about its final form, you're certainly welcome to reach out to me. I did review, and you know, Abby, I don't know, and that's, I honestly don't remember, and I looked through my notes, but that wasn't a point of note that I had. I also, in going through Tioga's file, did notice that we had the election agreement. Is that on this evening's agenda, or did we already go over that last meeting?
Yeah, already went through that.
Okay. Yeah, that looked fine. I just wanted to make sure I didn't have that box checked on my side, so that looks okay. Finally, I do note that this evening, just so we're all aware, we have a couple of agenda items that speak to the special meeting that was conducted on the 15th of November. I will certainly be available to ask additional questions, but I am generally aware of some chatter and inquiries about that. The meeting was certainly noticed as soon as it became known and available to us, and I appreciate Abby's prompt work in getting that done. I will tell you all, and I think that will be described this evening, presumably through talking points on the agenda, that the special meeting became necessary, not because there was any particular change in the facts or circumstances at issue with regard to the community center, its lending, nothing like that. It was actually the motion that came to pass at the November 6th meeting which created a very legally perilous and financially perilous situation for the city. This has been a contentious issue, and it's okay that it's a contentious issue. But as I said before, and I'll say again, the commission is diligent in trying to understand what is in the interest of the city, and to ensure that those financial and legal interests remain intact. And the other thing I'll say, and I believe it's been made available, is that I know there are a lot of questions about the character and nature and structure of the lending that's been discussed with regard to that project. I believe, and certainly Abby can confirm for us, that there should be a packet of materials available at the stand where the agendas exist, and that will provide you with a copy of the October, or rather July 2022 ordinance, which would have committed the $10 million to the community center, together with the actual loan agreement or bond resolution. I think it's fair to be skeptical of government. It's fair to question what you're told by any official. That's perfectly fine. But what I don't want to see happen, and what I think I have seen happen to this point, and what we want to try to dispel this evening, is to make sure that the correct information reaches the community. And one of the best ways to ensure that correct information reaches the community is to provide them with the actual documents and instruments themselves. So I understand those have been made available. Certainly anybody who's interested should take a copy and review it, and fact check us. I think that's sort of a precondition to having a productive communication about this, and making sure everyone's on the right track with the right information. I think that's all I have for now, guys. Like I said, there's a good chance that I'll be weighing in at other points as may be necessary, to help explain any legal procedures, or to help explain any of the legal matters that pertain to the November 15th meeting. And I'll be happy to do that. So for now, I suppose I'll mute unless there are any other immediate questions of me.
No, thank you. I don't see Josh from More Engineering. Is he here tonight? So for that for just a little bit in case he shows up a little bit later. So next part, we're going to talk about the community center. It'll be on number 3 on the old business. But before we start on that, I want to make a couple of things really clear. Okay. Oh, perfect. I'll continue with my talk real quick and then we'll have Josh do his. I told you guys at the special meeting last Wednesday that I am going to open the floor to have a conversation, right? I'm going to hold true to that. But I do want you guys to understand there are going to be some ground rules, and I'm going to put them out there right now. So first of all, according to the Attorney General, the right of a person to attend an open meeting does not include the right to address the governing board during the meeting unless a specific statute requires the public hearing. Okay, so tonight, when we get to the point of when you guys can address the board, we will be respectful across the board. We will be respectful, you guys will be respectful. If it starts to get out of hand, I will terminate the ability for you guys to have a conversation with us because it's no longer civil. And I'm not going to have a 4-hour, excuse my language, bitch session at the board. Okay, so with that being said, Josh. Sorry to walk right into that, but
Great time. A few updates this evening. South Main Street reconstruction project, no real significant updates there. Northeast Tioga reconstruction phase 2. Things are getting pretty well wrapped up out there. Concrete works all wrapped up and just some miscellaneous cleanup kind of remaining. We did have a walkthrough last Friday on that project, so I'm working on preparing the punch list. There may be some items they complete yet this fall, with some other cleanup items, for the spring. Okay, the Tioga Dam Emergency Action Plan and Safety Improvements. Again, continuing with the geotechnical report on that, that should be complete around the end of this month. So looking to have finalized report in December. Tioga Dam Recreational Trail. Currently working on some concept drawings and estimates for the water crossing locations, kind of showing options for box culverts for that crossing that two locations. The 3rd Street Northwest and North Hanson Street reconstruction project. Included in your packet is the contractor's application for payment number 4 for approval. The value of that is $496,255.14. I would recommend approval of that item.
Is there a motion for that?
I think motion to approve. Second.
All right, with a motion and a second to approve the order, your recommendation. No questions, comments, concern from the board, we'll move to vote.
Just one thing, Josh, so they got to come back next year and finish that top list and stuff.
Yep.
And I received a lot of it. We put a short date on that. You know, we haven't charged too many LPUs.
Yep.
I don't want them to think that they can come back next October.
Yep. In talking with them, their plan is as soon as they can get in, so.
It's always everybody's plan.
Yeah.
Just we need to hold them to that.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yes.
Yes. All right, so moves.
Okay, the baseball field relocation, floodway memo and site plan. We did have the survey completed on that, so we're doing the layout of that field and floodway analysis, and I anticipate probably setting something up a week after this week, next week sometime, to review that. What can happen for submittal to the state. And the last item I have is the task order for the North Main Street reconstruction project for construction next year. Included in packets. I did send that over to Liz for review as well. I don't know if she's gotten through it yet, but I guess look for approval of that.
Oops, sorry, guys. Can you hear me okay? Turn off my echo there.
We can hear all 4 of you.
Apologies for that. If it's fine with the commission, I would just request with regard to the task order that's been proposed by Josh, that the commission approve it subject to final legal revision. Josh, I didn't have an opportunity to review it before today. I'll go over it. It seemed to be consistent with prior task orders that Moore has provided to the city, but I should give it a thorough read through, and I will. I should be able to do that before end of Wednesday.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Looks like an easy one, probably not that easy. compared to this year, we want the same or?
Similar in size, the one thing about it is, Main Street, that portion of Main Street already has had the water replaced. Just the services and curb stops on that section, so there'll be four blocks or so of water main that will be done kind of, in comparison to the Third Street and Northampton project, similar size. Look maybe a little smaller since that portion. A little shorter time frame for construction. Water main. Replaced there.
Yeah, and keeping going with doing the infrastructure, I think we need to do it, but, when we get this far on this, let's have a public meeting. I don't tear down a tree. And know where, make sure we know where all the driveways are. We have a thing this year with that too.
Yeah, we can definitely get a ways into it. We can set something up with the residents.
Well, with that, I move to go ahead. Right.
So with a motion to approve contingent on legal review.
Also,
All right, with a motion and second, no questions, comments, or concerns from the board, we'll move the vote.
Yes.
yes.
Yes. All right, so much.
That is all I have. Unless there's any questions for me. I got one.
Come up to the podium, please, and state your name.
Kyle Ralston. I was just kind of curious, since there's no new updates on South Main Street in Benson, what is the status, I guess, of that whole project?
You want to do a status?
Yes, sorry, guys, I'm jumping back and forth. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I'm echoing back in my own ears. Let me just turn down this a tiny bit. There we are. The status currently is that, and I realize it's frustrating to the community. We are currently, you're currently in the mix of attempting to remediate that, and we believe that we would have a more prompt solution. There were several contractors involved in that project. And certainly it's our position that, at the end of the day, the faults that exist in that project, which are significant, are those faults and the expenses associated with them belong to those contractors. Unfortunately, it appears to have devolved to a point where there's some likelihood that we will have to institute legal action to see that that happens. We were hoping that we might be able to accomplish that short of formal legal action. We'll hope, and we are trying to allow that to happen, but there is some likelihood that there will have to be a lawsuit instituted to make sure that those corrections are properly made and properly paid by the people that are responsible for the defects. So I guess the long and short answer is that the city is actively working on resolving that. We do have a memorandum and a scope of work that would that says specifically what needs to be repaired and how it needs to be repaired. Right now, it's just a matter of whether the other folks or parties involved wish to do that short of court action, or whether that will be accomplished through court action. That's the best I can tell you, but we remain hopeful that we'll be able to undertake the appropriate repairs, or as we see them, by next summer. That's hopeful. It's not a promise, but that's our plan.
Kind of answer your question, Kyle.
Yeah, that works. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Community side.
So I don't have a lot to update you on tonight. The main thing is that our committee met last on Wednesday, November 15th. At that meeting, we were able to agree on two of our favorite floor plan design options. I will not be presenting those options today. I'm still waiting on some key details for both of those. But on another note, as the director of the community center for the last 3.5 years, I would like to clear something up if that's okay for me to take a few minutes to do that.
Sure.
Okay. The first thing I've heard quite a bit of is that the public wants to be able to have a say on what goes in any expansion that's done on the community center. They don't feel like they're being heard. And while I understand where they are coming from, I want to make it clear that from my first day in this position, I have always said that I welcome anyone to call or come in and speak with me directly with ideas or input they may have. I have had quite a good handful of people do that, take the time to do that, and I always make it known that I appreciate their efforts in doing those things. I understand though that others may not be comfortable doing that. And so I will say again, we have always had that suggestion box right inside our front door. It is not hard to walk in, fill out a piece of paper with your ideas or your thoughts or your concerns. You can email me, you can send me a message on Facebook. And I've also had people do that. I've had a good amount of people use that communication route as well. Back in May of 2021, I made a very innocent post on my personal Facebook asking for the people's input. I realized later that that was not set as a public post, which was an honest mistake, but even so, we had a good response to that as well. And despite some saying that no surveys have been done, we did create an online survey back in July of 2022 that anybody had the ability to respond to. The survey link was posted on the city website and both the city and community center Facebook pages. The survey was active for just over 2 months and we received 96 responses in total. And just from those responses alone, 82.3% were for an expansion, while the other 17.7% were not. And I realize that does not seem like a huge amount, but I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that no matter how many options you give people for offering up ideas or input, not everyone is going to see said option, or they will either participate or not participate. And again, while we fully welcome any and all input, we cannot make people respond. Over the last 3.5 years, we've had a fairly large amount of people come to us with their suggestions, and we have taken literally every single thing into consideration. We've done our research to determine the feasibility of each idea that has come our way. Some are feasible, some are not. We can't add every single thing that people would like to see. It has to make sense. And I would truly be surprised if I would now get another suggestion that I have not yet heard multiple times. But regardless, we are still always welcome or open in getting other people's ideas. And lastly, I would like to bring up the topic of a new gym. I have heard, Tioga doesn't need 5 gyms, or if the school is building one, the community center doesn't need one then. I'm going to try and be as clear as I can when I explain this because I've had to repeat it far too many times than I should have to. If the expansion includes a multifunction room that also serves as a gymnasium, it is not being put in to benefit the school, but to benefit the community and the community center first and foremost, as always. However, being that it's a community center and that the school is part of the community, we will continue to work with them if things come up that they need our facility for, as we always have. On another note, one of our committee members said it best when he said, we currently have an event space that is masquerading as a gym. That is 100% true. And while we are not a rec center, that space is often utilized for athletic activities because the people in this town have nowhere else to go for that type of thing. From my understanding, the general public cannot use the gym at the school. It's a safety concern and it's a scheduling issue. After school hours, the gym is most often used for athletics at the school or other school-related events, and rightfully so. The school gym and any potentially new great room / gym the community center might add, have nothing to do with one another. Our goal is to keep all of our areas we currently have, but to relocate some of them to improve our own functionality while adding new requested things we don't currently have. Our committee that was appointed by the commission has done a really great job at coming together to determine what makes sense in an addition and how we can get the most bang for our buck. I will be sharing these design options at the next commission meeting, and I will do my best to explain each of them thoroughly and how they will benefit the community as a whole. If anyone has follow-up questions regarding all of this, please feel free to reach out to me directly on my office phone or my work email. Thank you.
So really quick, out of curiosity,
Mhm.
if an individual doesn't want to send you an email, doesn't want to come in and fill out the paper, doesn't want to call you, but they want to have their input, they can provide that to one of the, how many countless committee members do we have at this point?
I think it's 14 now.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they can provide it to them
Absolutely.
who come to the meetings and can provide that to the rest of the group, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, just want to make sure that every avenue is covered because community input is the most important here.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Any questions from the board? Thank you. All right, Mr. Anderson.
Bob Anderson,
Good evening.
and kind of thank you for that, Haley, because, you know, when I gave you a suggestion way back when you were still in the planning stage, it got thrown in the garbage. It was that water park and everything, it was just a suggestion, right? And you knew better than that, so it never even got brought up, so don't tell me that it was not, you didn't put it up for anything, so. All right, I'll go from there, okay. I would like to start off by saying, it's been a long year and a half. I come in here to these meetings trying to get 5 commissioners that Tioga citizens have a voice. And a voice on the expansion with no luck because. But frankly, everybody's been closed-minded and they're all set on what's already set up. So. I don't know why you guys think you know best than the public, but the amount of money that may be needed or whatever for the job to do and represent the city of Tioga, I for one can tell you that you're not representing the people of Tioga, you're only representing a few. But without a vote, without a vote you're scared of, you'll never know. Why is everybody so scared of a vote? You know, and why, you all know it will not pass. Kevin, when you started being president of the Tioga Commission, you said you wanted to bring people together and let people have a voice. Boy, that didn't last long. Now, several months later, on November 6th, commissioners finally, after a year and a half, voted to put the expansion and the loan up for a vote. 9 days later, November 15th, now you call a special meeting and rescind the motion you made on November 6th to put the expansion up for vote. Now let's talk about Abby's loan that Liz is always sticking up for. Abby, you claim that the $10 million loan will be paid for by the oil taxes. It won't cost the Tioga taxpayers a dime. Because if the oil taxes stops, the $10 million loan is paid off. Well, let me tell you something, that oil tax money will probably always be there. But what will change is you're telling everybody is the amount that the city will receive for the oil tax is gonna be way less. So if the oil prices drop to $30 or less, you know, the oil tax money the city will receive is gonna be reduced a lot. And with the city operating with city budgets solely on oil tax revenue to pay for all the city's employees and all the city expenses, you won't have enough money to pay off that $10 million loan. Remember, everybody in the city that still owes just under $3 million on that existing community center. They refuse to pay off that. Takes $204,000 a year from the Tioga Fund to pay off that loan for the next 27 years. The bottom line is the community center was built to replace the Farm Festival building. It was never intended to become a recreational building and build in a floodplain. Now many petitions, meetings with the Tioga citizens, does the board need to see, how many do you need to see before you can put the expansion up for a vote? Commissioners, stop listening to Abby and Liz. They are not the elected officials. They never grew up here and they don't even live or own property in this town.
That's uncalled for.
Okay,
Huh?
so let me just stop you right there.
Yeah.
So first of all, even if I told you I wasn't listening to Abby and I wasn't listening to Liz, and I reached out and got my own legal advice from attorneys, like that are still practicing.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was told what occurred with your guys' petition is incorrect and not legal. So I'm not listening to them, and I'm going based off of the other legal representation that I was provided that said that we can't do that.
Okay,
So,
so that's fair.
okay,
So
so that's why
this is
that's
a
why we didn't
second,
have the
this
vote.
is a second round. So I mean, you could call it whatever. This call it a package, whatever. What I'm saying is, you guys understand this was a petition. It was signed by people.
But it was
still-
invalid. That's the
Well,
problem. And
you know,
right
I-
over there is the packet, the loan stuff right there. So you can grab one of those. as you
So
want.
I will take that, but I got a
Thank you.
little bit more to say.
You got a couple more minutes. 'Cause we're
Well,
almost
I
done.
gotta finish it off because I need to explain what you can use this money for. And I'll have to probably go slow so you can write it down, so. Well, okay, so why would you listen, you know, not, and listen and acknowledge that 264 Tioga citizen votes after petition and call it a packet, et cetera, whatever, but a petition. Liz, you know, Abby, you know, commissioners, you know, this was a second petition you have received from the community wanting a vote. Is this because you just don't care, or you think you know better than the citizens of Tioga to whom you're supposed to represent? We all know Abby runs this town, and Liz is right there by her
Okay,
side all
that's-
the way.
no.
And they both have to answer all the questions for you,
Okay,
Commissioner.
Mr. Anderson,
It's time, okay,
we're done. Thank you.
I gotta finish.
No,
this
you
here.
don't. No, you don't.
I really do.
Your actual time is up. So if you can please have a
So
seat.
can I get somebody to yield there for just a few more minutes?
You can have my part. You can have my 3 minutes.
I only got about 3 more minutes. I guess I kind of lost where I'm at. I guess.
Well,
I
you
just-
were
My
telling Abby.
bottom line is, why are we so scared to vote? You know,
Okay,
you're not representing the city. Let the citizens vote. It's been a year and a half of denials from the commission.
so the reason.
Now
the
with
community
the
can't
Tioga
vote
School
is
Board,
because then we would enter into litigation with the state of North Dakota and with the bank. So that's why we cannot send it to
so
a vote.
let me finish the last part. We might be able to wait, get out of this, okay? So now with the Tioga High School, building a new gym makes pretty stupid to build a new basketball court.
Because that one raises your taxes.
And that will raise taxes.
That will raise
Absolutely.
taxes, absolutely.
But we gotta be careful so we don't raise it another place too, right? So. And think that I think that's why everybody's on the fast track to get this loan for the gym at the community center. Before the public gets wind of the new gym, a lot of people have already got a hold of it. I don't think Tioga is against some type of building or a loan in Tioga. But it doesn't have to be the community center where it's in a floodplain. So let me slow this up for you, Abby and Liz, because you both see, you say I don't understand money. So let me give you a good example. So you borrowed $10 million. If you want to write this down, it's gonna be pretty good. So you borrowed $10 million on the expansion at 3.9% interest. You still owe $3 million on the existing community center at 3.5% interest. For a total of 13 million, which you actually owe. Plus you want to spend $6 million you set aside for the expansion totaling 19 million. You could take 3 million of that $10 million for that expansion loan and pay off that $3 million loan you have on the existing one and free up that Tioga fund, $204,000 a year to make that money available. The city would still have a $10 million loan, but it wouldn't be 13 anymore, it'd be 10. And yet you'd have 7 million left to build a nice community building on Main Street or wherever. It don't have to be there. See what I'm saying? Because you spent $5.5 million on there. We could have another building, some other place in town, and not put the city at big risk, right? Writing that down. And then,
It's all being recorded.
and then with that 6 million that you got set aside, you put that in the CD, probably getting 5.5%. That's $330,000 a year interest. Okay, at 5.5%. You take that money and you can use the interest to pay down, part of your debt. The city is only liable for $4 million out of that 10 million, because you got 6 million as collateral. And still got a $7 million building. Isn't that a way wiser thing to put the city in debt? At least put it up for a vote. There's other options out there, guys, and it's been a year and a half. And I'll guarantee you, if there's a way we can work with the bank somehow and get this thing work, we don't need to spend all that money at one place. And then we haven't even factored in moving the softball diamond and that fiasco with the floodplain and all that. I mean, that's all added money we don't need to spend. And where you add on to that big building, where are you gonna park? When it's busy down there, if there's a joint, you can't park there, it's full now.
What do you mean when it's busy? I'm constantly told that the
Well,
community.
just about 4 or 5 times a year, that's really busy.
All right, anything else, Mr. Anderson?
You know what, that's probably good, but I hope you guys wrote them notes down, because
They're recorded here and they're also recorded
Yeah,
up there, so we'll get
at
it.
least you'll be able to have it so you figure out what to do with that money.
Appreciate it, sir. Mr. Harms. Good evening, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Robert Harms, commissioners. First, thank you for including us on the agenda this evening. I'm going to hand out a couple of documents here in a bit. Grab a couple of these
Would
first.
you make sure Mr. Anderson gets one? I know he wanted one before he sat down.
Yeah,
I'll make sure he gets one.
Thank you.
You know, I was thinking about coming over here this evening and we're all on the same team. I was born and raised in this town. I graduated from high school in this town. Had a law office on Main Street for 12 years. I used to work with Larry when he was a cop or when he was a chief. Most of the time we fought, but we got along. And none of us like to be here. You guys don't like a room full of people that are unhappy, and we don't like being here doing things that we just soon be doing something else. So I think we all have to sort of look to our higher angels when we're trying to sort through this, see if we can come to a conclusion that makes things work better in Tioga. I want to talk to you tonight about 3 different things. I want to review a little bit about how we got here, spend a little bit of time on that. And then 1, 2, I want to talk a little bit about the legal posture of where we are. And then 3, I want to talk about solutions. I worked with Governor Schaefer for 8 years, and he beat into us a couple of themes. One was, Robert, you have to bring me solutions. You can't just bring me problems. You have to bring me solutions. And that was true with all the staff, every cabinet member. You couldn't bring him, you couldn't be the director of DOT and bring him an issue that federal funding was gone. He had to figure out a way to fill the gaps. So he would tell us, bring us a solution and always pay attention to what the people say. So the three things I want to talk to you a little about, those three, how we got here, legal posture and solutions. You know, before I get to that, I want to speak to one other thing about the special meeting from last week. A couple of things, you know, whether it's litigation with the state of North Dakota or a vote costing the city of Tioga millions and millions of dollars. None of those things are absolutely written in stone. That's not a certainty that any of that will happen. You have some options available to you. The other thing was this, there was a reliance on the committee, the 17 or 19 member committee that was appointed. I think you talked about it in July. It was finally, I think, appointed in December. And I was a member. I asked to be on that committee, and you removed me a couple of meetings ago, and that's fine. But what I want to be clear about is that committee is only addressing the internal design of the footprint. We've been told very unequivocally that the cost of this project and the footprint of this project is off limits. You can redesign the interior walls, tell us we should have different facilities, kitchens here, bathrooms over there, you can do that. But the reliance on this committee sort of bringing the community together really is misplaced. So let's talk about how we got here. And I won't go through detail by detail, but we started this. I mean, the community center expansion is actually in the strategic operation plan that I worked on 3 years ago. It's in there, the idea that eventually this community should have some kind of an expansion in that facility. So we started a couple of years ago. Committee was appointed. They had meetings, but they didn't have public meetings, and they weren't noticed. We talked about that committee. They did some research. They settled on one plan. They had one public meeting in March of 2022, lasted about 45 minutes to an hour. No questions or input were really taken from the public. They were unhappy about that. Then they proceeded to essentially approve the $16 million plan. We had a vote for a new mayor following that plan. You were elected, Mr. Litton. After that, there was 400 signatures, townspeople. There were a few people who had addresses from Texas that might have signed the petition, but you had 400 signatures that basically said, stop, get some input from the public about all the other facilities and how this money might be spent. Well, they continued. Finally, in December 22, the commission decided to reject all the bids for financing this project. And then it went quiet. Went quiet for about 7 months. We thought the project was dead. In December 22, we did reserve $6 million set aside for the expansion. But then in July 17th, the community center update, as it was noted in the agenda, was approved. And after that, we were all surprised by it. So I made an open records request. And then September 18th, the $10 million bond issue was approved. I made an open records request in July of this year. And one of the things I wanted minutes about how the expansion was approved. How did it just all of a sudden just pop up? In 7 months, we hadn't heard anything. No minutes were provided. No resolutions provided. I asked for a copy of the operating budget. A copy of the operating budget. We're gonna expand this facility 2 or 3 times its current size, and we don't have an operating budget. Anyway, that's how we got there. And in the meantime, and during the committee meetings, the architects, the contractor, the executive director, all in a hurry, rushing to begin construction. And every one of them have a financial interest in having this building expanded. So, we got one group of people in Tioga who I think rightfully think that the expansion, that the community center should be expanded and so on. I think they're right. I just don't know how much and what it should look like. There's another group that don't feel they've had an opportunity for public input and think there might be other uses for $16 million of public money. That's where we are. All right, so we're at loggerheads, and I want to see if we can work through the loggerheads and get to a solution that you guys can embrace. So let's talk about the legal posture. And I'm going to give you some paper. So what you have is the ordinance that we talked about last time, but attached to that, and that's the first thing I want to look at, attached to that are the letters that the committee received from the city auditor. First, let's turn to the letter from the city attorney, and I've underscored the things that I want to bring to your attention. First numbered paragraph, city attorney says, said document fails to recite any legal authority under which the instrument purports. And she goes on, I am unable to surmise what the instrument actually amounts to. And at the end of the paragraph, she says, accordingly, no action. Then paragraph number 2, same language, begins, fails to recite or reference what action or relief the would-be petitioners purport to be seeking. Last sentence says, accordingly, no action on the part of the city is required. And you go to the last page of the letter, and it concludes with this sentence. I merely write this letter to apprise the commission of the receipt of that document, but it is my opinion as legal counsel of the city of Tioga that there is no further or other action to be taken. And that was provided to the city auditor. So now let's turn to the city auditor and what she sent to the referral committee. I've underscored the lines that I want to bring your attention to. First sentence, she's in reference to the petition, do not meet the minimum requirements for a petition to refer. And then the first paragraph, she concludes, I regret to inform you that we cannot treat the documents you delivered as petition to refer at this time. We're just going to file it. That's all they tell us. Now the law, and we all have to follow the law. So let's look at the ordinance now. And I've circled paragraph number 6. That's the operative paragraph that the petition is reviewed under. And it begins, city auditor shall pass upon the sufficiency of the petition within 20 days. At the bottom in yellow, I've said, if the auditor finds the petition insufficient, he shall notify the committee of the petitioners specifying the insufficiencies. Specifying the insufficiencies. That's what your law requires of our auditor. And then that paragraph of the sentence above says, a petition shall be deemed sufficient if the city auditor has not certified to the contrary. The petition shall be deemed sufficient if the city auditor has not certified to the contrary. So the petition, the 20 days was up. I told you 2 weeks ago. 20 days was up the following day. Nothing more was provided. So then you go to paragraph 9. I think you end up with this position. Upon the final determination of the sufficiency of the petition, the city governing body shall cause an election. So that's the way a district court would look at this if we go there. We shouldn't have to go there.
Agreed.
So how do we get out of this? What Mr. Anderson has asked for and what the 400 signatures last summer have asked for and what the 260 signatures in October have asked for is they want some solution. Now, you guys, we think the city has done a great job in terms of getting a bond, a $10 million bond for 3.99%. I borrow that money any day today. That's great. And you guys are concerned about losing that bond and getting into a scuffle with the bank. And we understand that. So how do we help you get out of this mess? So here's what I'm going to suggest. I'm going to hand you a motion. I want you to think through it with me, but that's what I'm handing out. So here's what we're suggesting. That you and Commissioner Christensen flirted with this idea on November 6th, and that was, listen with your eyes, please. Commissioner Christensen was flirting with this idea 2 weeks ago, and he was saying, well, maybe we should look at some kind of a motion without actually agreeing with the motion that we had advanced. But you have the ability, if you decided to have a special election tomorrow on what color the building's going to be, you have every authority to do that. You can do it. So our thinking is halt the planning for the community center expansion. Form a committee, including, I think, Bob Scarfo, Wendy Lenson, Kevin Hovey, other volunteers to evaluate financial options, save the bond, invest the funds, look at other options, and evaluate renegotiating terms of the bond with the lending First State Bank. And conduct a special election after the school election on January 8th that asks the people of Tioga these questions. 1, should the city continue with the expansion of the community center in its current form at a cost of approximately $16 million? 2, should the city of Tioga have an additional basketball court in the community center rather than in the high school? 3, should the city contribute a significant sum of money, for example, at least $1 million, to the proposed addition to the high school? 4, should the city retain the current bond, but start over with planning on how best to serve the public with those funds? And lastly, should the city conduct a professional public survey and public hearings on what the community wants for the projects in Tioga? Now, imagine if you launched a public process that considered all of the kinds of options of indoor swimming pool, repair North Main, improve the Tioga Golf Course, indoor gun shooting range, catastrophic emergency center, walking and bike paths around the community, including the Tioga Dam, beautification of the Highway 40 corridor, modernizing Main Street business sector, downtown parking lots, exceptional pavilion and park, restore two-way traffic on Main, quiet zones, railroad quiet zones, multi-purpose building, including green space, retail, professional office space, and residential housing. Collaborate with the veterans. They want to do something on Main Street. Community center expansion. Community garden, oil committee celebration, work with the school on its project. They've got 6 classrooms in a gym that is up for a bid, excuse me, up for a vote on January 8th. If you, all it takes is one of you to make a motion. That's all it takes. All of the people will applaud your open-mindedness, your courage, and you're willing to listen to the people.
Can I ask you a few questions, please?
Happy to answer questions.
Thank you, I really appreciate it. Okay, first off, I'm curious. Did the American Legion come to the EDC board talking to you guys about putting a building of such?
Sure.
Okay, I was under the impression they were told they couldn't. I was curious if was that the case? I was just curious. Because I've actually met with some of the members from the American Legion because I really want to work with them to try to get them a building. That's really important to me.
And this
Yeah.
motion would give you an opportunity to figure out how best to do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then another thing, just because I think the public should know, is that the city they don't own those open lots. We're kind of looking into that. That belongs to the EDC. We don't have those lots. Okay, that's just important for you to say. And then I just want to point out another thing. You brought up really good ideas, and I think ideas are great, but a lot of those we're already doing. Like the walking path around the dam, we were talking about that before you guys originally brought that to us. That was already in the works. That is happening now. North Main.
Commissioner, if I could just speak to that point, and,
Yeah.
and what we're proposing is a process that would allow the community to evaluate all of those things. For example, the dam project.
So you want us
I'm
to stop that too?
No, but I think the process that the community center is sort of getting all of the attention and a lot of them, if not most of the money. I hear now the Tioga Dam project, I'm hearing that it's gonna get more complicated and we're gonna have to do something with the road on the east side. And that's gonna cost a lot of money. I don't know how much. In my notes, I've got, well, I'm making open records request so I can find out how much it's gonna cost for putting down a strip of asphalt on top, because I'm hearing that that's what's gonna be required. But that process that we're talking about will give people the opportunity to participate in that and help you evaluate it as opposed to what's happened thus far.
Okay, really quick. I really do appreciate everything that you brought. I do. I'm just making one statement real quick, is that in my conversations with legal counsel over the last week and a half, they've explained that maybe you can have some input on this. If you do a special election, you can't have multiple questions. You can only have one question, unless you bring multiple things to that. So you're gonna have to have multiple different sections. So I like what you're saying here,
Okay.
but I would ask, it's up to the board. If somebody wants to make a motion, that's on them. But I think that I would like to seek my own legal counsel prior to, and I'm not saying, because I know everybody hates Liz and hates Abby. So I will get,
It's not funny.
I would get-
Nobody hates them.
well, I get attacked constantly.
Yeah, well, I'm not
Okay.
attacking them, but.
You understand what I'm saying, though, right? They get attacked constantly.
Yeah.
So I would like an opportunity to seek out my own legal counsel to verify the correct procedure to ensure that we are all on the same page. I think that's fair. I mean,
Mr. Mayor, I think that if that gives the board some confidence in going in that direction, I think that's a great idea. It's a step in the right direction.
Right.
It's an open-mindedness, a willingness to hear what hundreds of people in Tioga have been asking for. Now, I don't profess to be an expert in municipal law. Yeah, I've gotten more I've gotten more education in the last month than frankly I've wanted, but I think you're headed in the right direction. Now, the political activist in me says that you can do a special election and you can write the ballot however you want, I think, but you know, if you need to speak to somebody, I think that's a great beginning.
I think it's just fair because I do want to bring what you have to, I do like what you have to bring. But I just want to seek other counsel just to verify, because Mr. Harms, if I talk to somebody and they say, Mr. Harms is legit, this is exactly correct, you're doing about this the right way, then I can come to the board and I'd be like, guys, listen, this is what I found out. So then that way, like you said, we're all trying to be on the same team and that's all I'm trying to do. And I think the best way to do that is ensure everybody gets the right counsel that they need.
Can I ask one other question? You have in parentheses here, save bond, invest funds, and other options. What does that mean by save bond?
Well, we're saying, look, we're saying, forget the special election that we were pushing on November 6th. Evaluate your options. I mean, the banker is watching this meeting. I'm seeing Chris Junt is on. He's watching this. We could visit, you know, the city could visit further and renegotiate things. I've done hundreds of negotiations, hundreds of, and nothing is unavailable to you.
So you want to negotiate on the city's behalf?
I'm sorry?
You're going to negotiate on the city's behalf?
I'll do whatever the city asks me to, but I'm just saying that you have all kinds of options available to you. It's not just we either have a special election or we get sued by the state of North Dakota.
You have anything else, Mr. Harms?
No, thank you for your attention. I appreciate it.
So, you know, you bring up a lot of good things. And, you know, in a way, it's almost like a distraction, because it's just a way to muddy the water. We can talk about this stupid Main Street one way, which none of these commissioners approved or put in. And I don't think you could have two-way traffic up and down that street without doing something way different. But anyway, we can talk about, you know, we gotta do more than just muddy the water. I mean, you forgot about the tent on Main Street, you know, to put over the canopy and the bronze statues of, you know, but, you know, the railroad, you know, I feel like, I always try to feel like I'm accessible. You know, I've been talking to people in the grocery store for 15, 20 minutes before I want stuff. My phone is listed. I'm happy to take a phone call. I foolishly answer my phone more than I should. And, you know, and I was pretty wary of the input I got from people before this, which is why I was always a no vote. And I don't know, maybe I'm just, because I hang out more at the community center. I felt the tide had turned there. But, you know, we go back to we want to talk about the quiet zone. You know what? I've heard that from two people in this town to do a quiet zone. Two people, you and Mr. Starr. And no one else has wanted to do anything about that.
Actually, wasn't there a quiet zone that was trying to be pushed and it was shot down? There was a grant that was going to pay for that quiet zone, and that board that sat here, I'm not sure of the members, they shot it down.
Correct.
There was a big stink about it.
Look, I'm not advocating.
No, I'm just saying.
All I'm just saying is these are ideas that are percolating out there and a process that you should try to nurture that would give the public an opportunity to provide input and to learn. So far, that has not happened on this Senate.
So would it be unreasonable to wait till Haley presents the two options and look at that? Let's see what this committee is come up with. And
Well,
people can kind of make a determination then.
Well, they'll have better information, but it's still the same cost. It's still the same footprint.
Actually, I heard that one of the footprints is smaller.
Well, since I'm not on the committee anymore, I don't know.
All right, any other questions from the board? All right,
Thank you.
Mr. Harms, I appreciate it, sir. All right, so new business. Evening, sir.
Evening, commissioners. How goes it?
Swell.
That's good.
Good to
I-
see you, Jim.
Yeah, yeah, I don't hear that often. So, I just wanted to give you guys lower this down. A little update on the airport and what's been going on out there since Curtis came and, filled you guys in earlier this year. We had a fly-in over Farm Festival weekend. We moved it finally to a little nicer weather and we had a very, very good turnout. We'd like to keep that going forward. And I would also like the public to know, please come out there, because it was a great turnout, and we had a lot of people riding in airplanes, and the kids loved it, so. We ran out of food, first time ever, so. We made a lot of sausage, anyway, so. Building update out at there, we are doing a sixplex T-hanger. We didn't know if we were gonna get the concrete poured this year, but luckily, right after that storm, we didn't have any frost, and the concrete guy finally showed up. And got the frost walls poured, and next spring, we should be able to pour the floor. And hopefully, we find a contractor in a reasonable amount of time to get that thing erected for next year. So, yeah, there's that. CIP, we had a CIP meeting down in Bismarck, or in Minot, excuse me, back on August 31st in regards to the immediate future of projects with the FAA and the state. 2024, our project this year was supposed to be a taxiway lighting project. It didn't work out because parts, the availability of parts, we just couldn't get the parts in time. So we went with, we had two bidders, and the winning bidder asked if we could push that project from this year to this year, or next year, 2024. And we decided to go with that. So next year we will be doing a taxiway lighting project, along with a airside pavement and a ramp micro seal. Our pavement out there is needing some TLC. So next year we are going to do a little bit of a west ramp, micro seal things, and this is all kind of fluid, these other projects going forward. 2025, we're gonna try to do a little bit more rehab with that, and it's a planning. 2026 is construction, and then possibly, this is where it gets a little murky. We are either going to move our fuel farm down towards our new terminal, or start planning of a parallel taxiway for our main runway, which would be huge because that would definitely bring a lot more traffic here, and I think that would be the right step in the right direction, that direction. Anyway, so right around in that area, that 2026, 2027 brings up my next question. If anybody has unfortunately ever had to ride in an ambulance to our airport, we have a horrible bumpy road. As many times as we blade it, we get moisture, it's rough. I don't know of maybe 2 or 3 airports in the state of North Dakota, from what I've understood. We are one of the 3 that do not have pavement going all the way to their airport. Now, I think if we speak to the 5 different towns that have used our airport this year for medevac, Crosby, Wild Rose, Ray, Tioga, Powers Lake, I think they'll vouch that it would be really nice to have pavement on that road on 67 from Highway 40, 1.2 miles east. I haven't talked to too many people about it because our last airport meeting was on Thursday. I put out a little feelers. I talked to Williams County Commissioner, a couple weeks ago, but it would be nice if we could try to spearhead that project. And I just want the city to know that I'd like to see if we couldn't get any help with that down the road. I'm not saying next year, but possibly 2025, maybe 2026. I don't see that being a problem. The road's not that bad a shape because it's not being beat, with oil field traffic that much. But the city does use it a lot for going out to the lagoon. So I don't think it would be that much of a construction to fix it. We have preliminary cost. Like I said, this is fluid. But at our last meeting, our engineering firm talked, I asked them, I said, well, I'm gonna need some kind of a number, rough estimate. Just for the pavement alone, which is aerial grade, for that distance was 500,000. Which in my opinion, in the scheme of things, with money and numbers being thrown around, especially tonight, it's a drop in the bucket. So I would keep an open mind for the next couple of years because you'll be seeing me.
I've seen you a lot more than just a couple times.
Yes, you will, unfortunately.
So really quick question, because I don't know, how often do we have medevac coming in?
Varies. I'd say at least once a month on average.
So a
It's not-
significant amount enough to where we definitely need to visit this.
I would say that's more than that, because other cities use that.
Right. They
I
could
think-
vouch
I
for
think
it.
Wayne Knutson can test that, about a month ago, there was 4 of them in a week.
There's one today.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I understand there's a meeting. I just wanted to.
right, yeah, I understand. So, I mean, that project, I think, is a dire need. And with our airport potentially growing the way it is, which I see in the next 10 years. And the traffic, especially with, I hope. That with the sale of Hess and Chevron, I hope we get a little bit bigger traffic, more traffic. You know, going forward, KSI is using it quite a bit, Continental. I think we got a lot of good stuff coming ahead for the Tioga Airport. Traffic is going to pick up.
And really quick, just confirming. The longer we wait, the worse the road's gonna be, the more it's gonna cost to fix it, correct?
I don't think costs have gone down ever.
Right.
So I mean, they're gonna continue to rise.
Okay.
This is coming from KLJ. We're doing a project up in Crosby, and I think he said Kenmare this year.
Okay.
That is what and that's a higher grade asphalt than what we would require in the road.
I would like to make one statement here. Paving that road, if it saves one life, it's worth it.
Agreed.
Right.
Absolutely. The other thing is it will definitely keep the mud and everything else off my taxiways and ramps. We're in the process of getting, I think. The ambulance drivers will test that, we're finally getting some signs out there that can put the right people where they need to go. We got a new ramp. It's just, if people aren't familiar with the airport, they don't know where to go.
I've been lost before.
Yes, yes, Jessica last year come out and she forgot which way to turn. Okay. Anyway. The other thing I was gonna say is, after speaking with Curtis, our chair of the board, we'll have a member not renew at the beginning of the year, Bob G. I can't say his last name and I'm not even gonna try. I just call him Bob G. What she said. So, I encourage the public, if you have any interest in becoming a board member, to please put an application with the city. It is a different board. And I think we're got a lot of growing to do in the next 10 years, like I said earlier. So everything is running smoothly. I'd like to say, I would like to think, I don't have as many phone calls with you guys, but everything is rocking and rolling. And like I say, I would like as many applicants as we can, and hopefully you guys continue putting good applicants on the board.
Having said that, it is that time of the year where we would make a motion to put out for applicants for the report. So I think I would make a motion to advertise for applicants.
All right, there's a second for that.
I'll second.
All right. For the motion and the second to advertise for the board for the airport. No questions, comments, concerns from the board, want me to vote?
Yes.
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 And other than that, if there's no questions from you guys, then we're ready to be quiet.
Guys are doing awesome.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, we're rock and rolling in a good direction. So, okay, thank
All
you.
right, thank you. All right, next is gonna be an open position for the streets department.
Guys, that the commission board had previously approved approved, to hire, an advertised, street department employee. This would be either seasonal or do the part-time year round. So I'm seeking permission to advertise and hire for the street department.
Make a motion.
All right,
I'll second.
all right, with a motion to approve and a second to approve the position for the street department, no questions, comments, concerns from the board, we'll do the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, all right.
Regis, please.
All right, next will be the CD quote.
We received, quotes, from 4 banks, for CDs. And I'm seeking permission to, go into, with First State Bank and Trust at, 5.23 APR for a 6-month CD. And I'd like to put either 10 or 13 million, depending on your guidance.
And what I need, 0.8, you said?
5 point
5.23.
for 6 months.
Is there a difference adding in the 10 versus 13 million?
No, there is no difference. The reason why I feel, the 13 million, we can do up to the 13 million. But it would just depend on how comfortable the commission feels. Doing that. And I can even separate it into maybe 2 CDs so that if we do need to pull out some money, we can do one instead of, so, we can stop the CD instead of, putting all of it together and stop the whole CD. We can do one or the other. Up to you guys.
Any motions on the floor?
I'll make a motion.
So she gave us 2 different amounts, so she wanted a motion. What value amount are you motioning for?
Yeah, the 10 million or the 15 million?
I think I would go with the 10.
Okay, so we have a motion for 10 million for the CD quote.
I'll second.
All right, with a motion in a second. No questions, comments, concerns from the board, we'll move to vote.
Yes.
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 All right, so moves. Next will be the consent agenda. This includes payroll from October.
Actually, before we do the consent agenda, I really apologize for interrupting. I know we lost some people. I just want to bring something up. There was a Facebook post that was made, on the concerned citizens of Tioga, and I just wanted to address something really quick. There was some comments that were made that were extremely inaccurate. One of them was something about kickbacks. I promise you, the city commissioners do not get a kickback from the community center. I think that's really important to note. You're definitely not making money out of this job at all. So that is not true. Also, there was nothing done illegally or sneakily. And definitely nothing worthy that anybody should be fined for. So I just think that was important to bring up. I apologize, Kevin. Move to the consent approval.
All right, so the consent approval includes payroll from October 7th, 2023, bills from October 2023, financials for October 23.
I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, with a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, no questions, comments, or concerns from the board, we'll move to vote.
Yes.
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 All right, so moves. Can we have a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, with a motion and a second to adjourn, no questions, comments, concerns from the board, we'll move to vote.
Yes.
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 All right, meeting adjourned at 8:19. Thank you for coming.